How about even for people without insulin resistance? Why would a low-carb diet be more effective potentially?
Well, I think from a evolutionary perspective, we are hardwired to respond to a low carbohydrate diet. So even if you're insulin sensitive, especially if you're insulin resistant, you can adapt to removing most of the carbohydrate out of your diet if you follow that diet for more than a couple weeks. So in that regard, every person, I think, has the ability to adapt to a very low carbohydrate intake.
And the way the body differs is when we consistently eat carbohydrates, carbohydrates become the body's first line fuel. That's what the body is expected to burn, in part because we can store very little carbohydrate in our bodies. So if you eat a fair amount every day, that has to go to the front of the line to get burned, which means that fat gets kind of blockaded and put in reserve. That's what extra adipose tissue is reserve. When you restrict carbohydrates, as Jeff said, for a few weeks, the body goes through an adaptation process, and now fat becomes the body's first line fuel. And it becomes the body's, in essence, high octane fuel. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes a period of time for that to occur. But what differs is the basic fuel flow system of the body. And as Jeff implied, from a evolutionary perspective, whether humans lived as hunters and ate very little carbohydrate, or whether they had to go through periods of prolonged fasting in between crops if they were subsistence farmers, there have been periods of time in human history where all of us have been, our metabolism had to adapt to a low-carb situation, and the human physiology is very adaptable to get through that, given, as we say, that modest period of time to make the switch from a high-carb fuel system to a high-fat fuel system.